All right, so today we are going to begin our look at some applications of pattern formulae. So, in other words, we're going to be looking at some story problems or word problems and answering questions based on a pattern. Okay? So, you're going to see that lots of things that happen in the real world involve patterns, right? And you're going to see some examples of this, and we will work through these. Be particularly careful that you understand what's going on here, because the vast majority of your assessment is going to be based on this idea, right? You will have some where you have to continue the drawings. You will have some where you have to make a pattern from the drawing. You'll have some where you have to tell me what the 100th number is. So the mathematics like we did, but most of the assessment is going to center around being able to answer questions using a pattern. So we're going to pop over to the book and look at an example, and then we're going to spend the rest of our time working through some of these. There's really no process for this, because what you're going to be doing is either finding a pattern and then using it, or just being given a pattern and then using it, right? And by using it, I mean the same thing like when we did that 100th number. That means we just replaced n with 100 and did the math, yeah? So, let's just talk briefly, sort of steps. First, find the formula, right? Which is the same thing as a rule, if not given. Most of the time, they're going to give you the formula, but occasionally you might have to write the formula. Remember, that's just the find the common difference, right? Kind of thing. And then find out if there's anything you need to add or subtract. Then, plug the number given into the proper place. Now, usually what's going to happen is they're going to give you n, right? And you just plug that in and work it. But they could give you the m as well. Also, when you're seeing these formulas that are being used for specific applications, they might use different letters. So they might use T for time, right? Or they may use D for dollars. So you can see different letters here. So don't get hung up on the fact that it's N and M. Think about the places of the location of the number and which thing you need to replace. Okay? Then, simply solve. And that means use your order of operations. So first you look for brackets. Then you do any exponents. Shouldn't have any here. Then you do any multiplication or division from left to right. Then you do any addition or subtraction from left to right. Remember your order of operations. Okay? Right, so let's go to the book real quickly. So Milan is stacking boxes onto a wooden pallet. They contain the latest release of crime novel to be sold in a bookshop. That has nothing to do with anything, does it? But you're going to see that there's some information that they give you that's extra. The pallet weighs 20 kilograms, and each box weighs 12 kilograms. Okay? So, if you have 0 cartons, why 0 cartons for 20 kilograms? Because that's simply the weight of the pallet, the thing he's stacking them on. So without putting any books on at all, the pallet itself already weighs 20 kilograms. Right? And so that's why this number is 0. We're used to it being 1, but he hasn't put any on there, and the thing already weighs something, right? The pallet itself. Okay? So be careful with that. You can have 0. In these application problems, they normally start with 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. So pay close attention to what you've got in your sentence. And each box of novels weighs 12 kilograms. So after he adds the first one, he's got the 20 plus 12 or 32. After he adds the second one, it's 12 more. The third one, it's 12 more. And the dots mean that goes on like that forever, right? So notice that the common difference, or the number we're working with, is 12. Yeah? So we would have a pattern just based on that of M equals 12N. Now they use C for cartons, and we'll change it in a moment. But the first number was not 1 this time, but what? 0. Yeah? Okay? But if you put a 0 in place of the N, M equals 12 times 0, which gives you M equals 0. So but what is should my first weight be? 20, right? This is the same thing we did yesterday. So that tells us that it can't be just 12N. It has to be M equals 12N what?
Plus 20.
Plus the 20, exactly. And that gives you your pattern or your formula. Okay? So exactly the same thing that we did last time. Now, the difference here is that we are talking about specific items in this case. We're talking about the weight of cartons, right? And the number of cartons. So, if we're talking about weight, that's why they use W. So W equals 12C plus 20. Let's just go to paper background so you can see that a little closer. Right? And again, why would they use W? It stands for the weight. Why would they use C? That's the number of cartons, right? So you know that if I tell you then, find the weight for 15 cartons, then you would put the 15 in place of the C, the cartons, right? The number of cartons, okay? So, right? Yes, you may. Okay, now, let's look back at the book and see what the question is like now that we have the formula. Generally, they're going to give you the formula, but not always. They could give you the chart just as easily. So, here's your formula, exactly the way we wrote it with the cartons. If he stacks 11 cartons of novels on the pallet, then the total weight will be 12 times 11 plus the 20 is 152, and it's not cartons, it's weight, so it's in kilograms. So make sure you put your units, right? So let's just do that same formula, right? We have weight, oops, sorry. Try that again. We have weight equals 12 times the number of cartons plus 20. What if I said that he stacked 20 cartons? So 20 cartons, so where's that 20 going to go?
In the C.
In place of the C. Good. So weight equals 12, and you can never replace a letter with a number without putting it in a bracket. Exactly, good. So 20 plus 20. Now we're just going to do the math, and the first thing we look for is brackets, and we know we're always going to have them because we put them there, right? So weight equals 12 times 20. Well, 2 times 20 is 24. And add a 0, that gives you 240. And if the numbers mess with you, don't worry about it. You can take the math and do it off to the side. And then simply add those together and you get 260 what? kgs. Oops, that's a cube. Okay. Pretty simple, yes? So exactly the same thing we've been doing, except that this time it's going to be given in context. In other words, they're going to give you some items that you need to name. Okay? Now, in this particular case, if you were told to write this out in words, you would say that 20 cartons on the pallet. Why do I need to mention the pallet?
Because it needs to know where it is.
Well, there you go, because the pallet has weight too. And the pallet's weight is added into our formula, isn't it? So if you don't include the pallet, then if you just say the cartons, it's not the cartons that weigh 260 kilograms. It's the cartons and the what? The pallet. So that's what I mean about being specific. 20 cartons on the pallet would weigh 260 kilograms. If it's asking you to write a sentence to answer the question, yes, you would have to write out that whole thing. And so it's a good idea just to get in the habit of doing it. Okay? Because you need to be able to write out an explanation. Now remember, it's not good enough just to be able to do the math and give a number. You have to explain what that number means. Yes? Okay. So, again, nothing new mathematically here, but we're just going to be answering the questions in context of a particular situation. Yeah? Okay. Let's look at another one. Actually, let's just go to the workbook and we'll work in there, okay?